Okay, Declan, Felix and Sean, it's great to have you with us tonight to look ahead to the new SSE Airtricity season. It's a campaign that's upon us all of a sudden. Declan, really there's a nice northwest feel to the Premier Division this year with Harps promoted, and what a way for them to start the new campaign than a home match against Derry City.
Absolutely. I suppose with the excitement of the playoffs, and we were there last year, and we did live coverage, it was great to get the opportunity to win the Premier League and then to start off with a home draw against Derry City, and you couldn't ask for any better than that.
Big crowd expected. It promises to be another great night at Finn Park.
Yeah, big game. I suppose down through the years we hadn't had too many good results against Derry, so it's an opportunity to address that issue. Home game, first of the season, big crowd, obviously good atmosphere. For any player looking to play, that's what you want to be playing in those kind of games. And as obviously, as you said yourself, it's important to get off to a good start.
Yeah, we can look at the individual squads, I suppose, that's in a few minutes' time. But Felix, how important is it for Harps to get off to a good start? I know Ollie Horgan has already said that it's one game. There's 32 league games after this one against Derry, but I'm sure deep down he'd love nothing more than start off with a home victory.
Well, it's important to get that monkey off your back. You know, particularly when you go into the top echelon, where you haven't been for a while. You know how difficult it's going to be. You've got to get, the sooner you get momentum, the better. Defeat and victory, as these two boys know beside me, the difference in the dressing room's massive. And if you can overcome Derry in the first game, it would give them a massive lift. Harps are going into this on the back, as what Declan just said, on the back of the playoff victories, and there's the feel-good factor about Harps and Donegal, where it's the exact opposite in Derry. There's a lot of apathy about the club in the Brandy, the way things have gone. You know, they don't see any real quality coming in player-wise. So it's possibly not a bad time to get there.
And some might say, Sean, that Derry need a good start as well, because you know, you look back on their campaign last year, they struggled for so long in that season and then came good towards the end, just in time to get enough points to stay clear of the relegation area.
Yeah, I think the boys will agree. It wasn't just last year Derry struggled. I think they struggled the season before, and you know, I'm up in Derry a lot at the moment, and as Felix says, there's a lot of apathy, a lot of disappointment. They seem to have missed out on a lot of their major targets that they tried to bring in. Some of the players they've brought in, there's really not a lot known about them. So there's a lot of pressure there, certainly on Kenny Shields, because Derry are a big club, and I think going into this game, any pressure will be on Derry. You know, Finn Harps are coming up, the new boys, probably not a lot expected of them. And I agree with Felix that if you want to catch Derry, now's the time to do it. And I think, you know, you've only got to look at Harps' start to the league. As Felix says, the sooner you get your first 3 points, the better. And you know, for a newly promoted club, that confidence for getting a win in the Premier Division helps the changing room, helps you go into the next game, and the longer it takes to get that win, you know, the pressure mounts. So it's a big game for both clubs, but certainly the expectancy is at Derry, and I think Finn Harps can go into the game and really have a go. You know, they're at home. Everybody knows here around the table when it's a big game there, the crowd's really exciting, gets behind the team. It's a good atmosphere, and it's a perfect start for me for them coming back into the Premier Division.
Yeah, but after that difficult run of games for Harps, they've got
Dundalk, Shams, Sligo Rovers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like of those 4 games, you know, if you look on paper, if you were picking your first 4 fixtures, you'd say no thanks. However, they're newly promoted. The players will be excited. The players will be looking forward to it. It'll be no problems motivating your players for those 4 games. You know, they're big games. You're playing your local rivals. You're playing the league champions. You're playing one of the biggest clubs in the country, and then you're playing another local rival. So it's for the club financially and always, but it will be important that they've got to pick up some wins in those 4 games, and certainly try and pick up at least maybe 4 or 5 points, because that will lead on to the rest of the season. If they don't, for example, if they went 4 games without a win, the pressure's there straight away.
It would be massive, James. You know, if you went 4 games without a win, let's say you have 1 point, 2 points, you're under the cosh. The way that Ollie speaks in the dressing room, the way he spoke in the dressing room last year, the way he would speak if you lost your first 4 games and no points would be completely different. The whole mentality within the dressing room will change completely. The problems that are always in dressing rooms are okay when you're winning. When you're not winning, those problems are still there and they become an issue.
That's right.
And that's why it is vital that they get off to a good start. and you know as well as I do, is it when you ring the manager on a Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday and you're looking for a quote for the paper, you don't want to be asking, well, how important is it to try and get your first win this week? And you're asking the same question 3 or 4 weeks later, and then it becomes in the dressing room, and then it feeds through the whole county. When are we going to get our first win? So if you can get the monkey off your back first, it would if you can beat Derry in the first game, it gives you enormous confidence and belief that we could be okay this year. But then you're coming up against the teams who could well be first and second in the top 3. And if you get anything out of that, would be a bonus. But you'll be better equipped if you win your first match.
I think the point Felix made there is very correct. If you start losing any flaws within your squad's makeup in terms of the mentality, the psychology in there comes to the fore, and as a manager your job becomes a much more different job. Getting players excited at training. You know, if you're winning, everything's easy. The world's a great place, but especially in football, if you don't win, and I'm speaking from experience here at Galway United. You know, I know the difficulty in trying to lift your players, and as a manager, that's your job. But you're feeling the pressure as well, so you've got to keep that from your players. So it's a massive game, but one that I think probably the expectancy will be in Derry City, and Finn Harps can go and have a go and test themselves and see how they're going to compete at this level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think obviously if we can get 3 points against Derry City is a great start. Dundalk, you're away to Dundalk, it's a hard place to go. Not many teams will go up and get points, so you can set up a wee bit defensively, and it might suit you. And then down through the years against Shamrock Rovers, we've always done very, very well at home against Shamrock Rovers. So I wouldn't. That's a big game. I know Shamrock Rovers are a good team, and they've bought well again and brought players in, but down through the years we've got really, really positive results against them at home.
They started slowly last year, so I think if you're going to play Shamrock Rovers, Felix, I'd rather play them early on before they get into their stride,
well,
before they settle down.
I think that's the case. That's the case with nearly almost everybody. With the merry-go-round that goes on with League of Ireland football, there's only 10, 12 teams, say 10, 12, depending on what decade you want to talk about. And there's always the merry-go-round that happens every year, and it takes 5 or 6 games before teams get bettered in and get really good. But it is, make no bones about it, it's a really tough start. It's a really tough start. The Derry one, the first one, can breathe new life into you, or can destroy you, and that's going to be a massive game. And the biggest problem that Ollie has is it, I mean, Declan, I don't know whether Declan was there, I think you were, but I mean, I've told this story before. We played Derry, I was the manager of Harps, and we lost at Finn Park, and at a meeting the following 2 or 3 nights later I asked for a show of hands and asked everybody to be honest, and I said, there's about 18, 19 people in the dressing room. I says, well, I'm going to ask you a question. How many people in here really thought before we went out to play Derry we'd win? And 2 people put their hands up.
Yeah.
Now, that's a serious problem. And that's a problem that I am saying that's still ingrained in a number of people who are going to be playing in that game.
Yeah.
And it's been part of the psyche of Harps for many, many years. And there's no need for it. There's no need for it, but it's easy for me to say. But when you're dealing with young fellas who are not used to winning, and they've got this thing about Derry, you know, Sean talked about Derry being this big club. At this moment in time, they're not a big club.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, they're not a big club.
Okay.
They're more focused on getting the stadium changed and everything else.
I think as a club they have a different
different outlook,
different perspective on what they want to do for the season. But I think irrespective of that, I think you're right. The difference this year is that every Friday night or Saturday night, Finn Harps are going to be tested, and it's not a case of, you know, you can raise yourself for one game. We've all been in those matches, but they'll have to do that week in, week out, because your weaknesses will be found out in the Premier Division. And for me, that's the big difference between the Premier Division and the First Division.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks for that. We'll discuss the new signings at both Derry City and Harps, and indeed Sligo Rovers, in the second part of our discussion. So we'll be back with that very soon. And you're welcome back to the second part of our discussion, looking ahead to the new SSE Airtricity season. And Declan, we spoke about the importance of Harps getting off to a good start in the new campaign, Ollie Horgan's preparations for the new season, the pre-season campaign, it's been only okay, I would suggest. He's spent quite a bit of time trying to bring players into Finn Park, and on top of that then trying to organise matches during a period of bad weather. So I'm sure there have been more straightforward pre-seasons out there in years gone by. But in terms of the players that he has brought in, Declan, how has he done on that front?
Not too bad. There's one thing about Ollie, in fairness, he gives us everything and he works extremely hard. The problem we have with Finn Park would be you're sandwiched in between Derry and Sligo Rovers, and they're two full-time setups, so it's very, very difficult to attract players in. And there's no doubt Ollie's been fighting to get players in since probably they got promoted in November, and so he's put in a lot of work. So happy enough with the quality. Obviously, like everybody else, you'd analyse it. We probably could do a bit more quality, but every other team's the same. Your budget restricts what you can bring in, so obviously he would know the mathematics of that. But I mean, if you look at the quality, you bring in Richard Bush, the goalkeeper, to obviously to fight with Kieran Gallagher, which is good. Kieran done very well last year, and obviously he's under a bit more pressure now with having Brushy there. Ryan Curran is a young lad who would be the son of Paul Curran, who played along with Felix for years. Good quality up in Derry. I played against him myself at Derry, Horizon Kildrum Tigers. Good young player, great potential. Liam Flatley, another young lad, plays the 10 position or can play out wide, right, left. He came through the emerging talent program with himself down in Castlebar. Good player, got good potential. Obviously young, lacks a wee bit of experience, similar to Ryan Curran. He's brought in Sean Houston, who's at Shamrock out with Bray and Derry City. He's doing really well in pre-season by all accounts. So,
and some might say if Sean Houston was to stay injury-free, Declan, he could be a key signing.
Absolutely, he's a big, strong lad, and he scored 2 goals last week against UCD. So, by all accounts, he's going very, very well.
Well, Sean wants to play in central midfield. I was talking to him and his mother about 6-7 weeks ago in the Everglades Hotel in Derry, and he wants to play centre midfield. Be interesting to see where he plays, because I mean Cian Calls is a decent left back, so it'd be interesting to see where Sean actually plays.
Yeah, he's been playing now with midfield for Finn Harps. I'd see him in there and playing in there because of his strength. Yeah, absolutely. Strength, you know, and again, I suppose he's got something to prove. He's coming back and probably hasn't had a run where he's been playing consecutively over a whole season and could do with playing.
I think he was talked about a few years ago as being a decent player, and probably never really kicked on. So
yeah,
he'll obviously have a point through.
Well, when I was at Harps, I tried to get Sean. When I was at Harps the last time, I tried to get Sean up here on a number of occasions, and Pat Devlin, who his gaffer at Bray, was always very reluctant to let him go. Because he felt he was doing a great job for him, and decent. And the one thing about Sean is he can play in various positions. But the one thing about players and the ins and outs, you know, Liverpool, Manchester United have spent nearly 500 million, and they still need players, and they still need players. Derry need players. Shamrock Rovers need players. Stephen Kenny probably tell you he would like another. You always want something else.
You're always looking for the extra one, the extra bit of class.
The one that's going to make the difference. The thing about it is Leicester City to a certain extent have broken the mould this year, but in every league, the team with the money compete for titles. 100%. The team who don't have money are fighting relegation.
Well, I think you predict the league, and I do it every on the budget. You know, the interesting one for me is Richard Bush. You know, I think you'll agree for that, a good goalkeeper. Now, Brushy's been a good goalkeeper. I brought him into Sligo in 2005. He came from Shrewsbury. He's got a good background. I think he's probably about 31 now.
Where does he live?
He lives in Sligo.
He lives in Sligo.
Yeah.
Right.
He's originally from around the Birmingham area, but he's a top keeper. Now he had a couple of wrist injuries and stuff like that. I just wonder, is he back to his best? But I certainly think he adds experience. He's won leagues. He's been in cup finals. He's been around the block, and that's going to be a massive thing for your defence.
But it's like, Sean, come back to you know, when you're in Ollie's position and you're in Kenny Sheen's position, you have to sign players that ordinarily you wouldn't want to sign. That
or you take chances on players.
And you take chances. Like Derry, I think, have signed the fellow Keith Ward.
Yeah,
he's always signed. Well, there you go. He's at 5 different clubs in the last number of years. But Kenny's in a position, because he doesn't have a lot of money, he has to take a punt.
Yeah.
And you have to do that.
I did
You
the
have
same.
to
I did
do
the
that.
same thing at Dundalk in 2009 when I signed George O'Callaghan. Everybody knew George was a talented player. Everybody knew there was problems with him.
Yeah.
But you're right, Felix. When your budget dictates, and you're getting a player that you maybe know is worth X, and you can get him for Y, you think, well, I'll take a chance. I'll have a go.
Yeah.
Well, Harps have done that probably with Michael Rafter.
Yeah, there you go.
Where he's a good quality player. Would have played international football about 15s, 17s, and 19s. Has great pedigree, but has injury problems.
But
But brings that wee bit of quality in the last third.
And you're hoping that he
But didn't
delivers.
do it. I saw Michael Rafter. I covered a number of games the year of the playoffs on Dundalk, and he did really well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But he's never kicked on.
No.
No.
He never kicked on. He was, the year he was at Derry, he was, he didn't do it. Although sometimes I think Michael Rafter might well be, if he stays okay, I think he's going to be in the team every week.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference to anybody.
I think
Their
I was
mentality.
chatting to the lads. What he does is experience, and maybe throughout the whole season,
Talks,
he's very good in the
organises.
dressing rooms. And that's valuable as the season goes on. To have good people in the dressing rooms when things are maybe having a
Especially when you're up
negative
against
twist.
it, yeah.
Yeah, that you need somebody with a voice outside the manager, because the manager can't be the same voice all the time. So you need people to stand up and be counted for.
Well, it's not just that. I think, and Felix will back us up. If you're managing, sometimes it's difficult to get your message out on the pitch. So I'm sure when you played, you were seen as a leader. So you'll have players that play for you that will get your message across without you even having to tell them.
It was sometimes the young ones can surprise you, and the older ones can let you down. It swings and roundabouts, to be honest, and sometimes it's
There's more freedom with the younger players probably as well.
Yeah.
Well,
They probably
there's
don't think
more-
about the fear factor as much,
Right,
or
and
what can go wrong.
There's less baggage with them. There's less baggage with them, but there's so much. I mean, Sean, you know as well that sometimes when you're the manager of the team, there's so many other things you have to. People just see somebody when they run out of Flynn Park or run out of the Brandywell. They don't realise what they've been doing for the last 7 days, and the manager's been dealing with all the crap that goes with it.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Sean,
and that can impact as well.
Kenny Shields, that's new territory for him, no more so than Ollie Horgan. This is his first stint as a manager in the League of Ireland. Is he the right man for the job? Did Derry get a good man there?
They've got a really experienced football man, and I know Kenny Shields, going back to when I was starting doing my coaching badges. Kenny was one of the assessors with the IFA, so he's got experience at international level, youth level. He's obviously got experience within the Irish League. He had a great experience at Kilmarnock, and I think probably I actually bumped into Kenny last week up in the Foyle Arena. We had a bit of a chat, and he's excited about the job. So for me, I think they've got a very, very experienced football man, and I think the difference is, I think as Declan said, he's coming into a full-time environment, so that'll make it easier for him. I think it'd be more difficult if we're going into part-time, but he's with the players every day. He's a very, very experienced man. I'm probably a little bit surprised maybe that he didn't recruit probably one or two players that he was after, but again, that's probably, I don't know.
They don't have the money.
I don't know his budget.
They
I'm
don't have the
hearing
money.
he was offering maybe £450 a week, so that's competing against the better players, and the boys around the table know Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers and some Pats and Corks will be paying out a lot more than that, so his hands are tied in that respect. But I think because of that, because of his experience, because of the levels that he's worked at, I think at this moment in time, he is the right man for the job, because they've tried to go local the last couple of appointments and it hasn't quite worked.
Well,
how much time he's going to be given, Felix? Maybe because he's not local, he mightn't be given the bye ball that maybe Declan Devine was, or some of the other.
See, you can't possibly have success at a football club if you're changing 7 or 8 players every year. You take, come back across channel, Stephen Gerrard, Suarez, Sturridge and Carragher all left Liverpool, and in the last 18 months Liverpool have brought in about 14 players, 15. How many of them have been successful? And yet they've lost probably 2 world-class players and 2 other decent players. That's Liverpool, and they're finding it difficult.
And they're paying millions on players.
Yeah, and they're paying millions.
I think it means
Roddy Collins came into Derry, says he wasn't going to bring journeymen in, said they had the best youth structure in the country. didn't play any of the young fellas and brought in all journeymen, and he left the club in a mess, which Peter Hutton went into, and he needed more experience to deal with it, and needed a whole lot of other things to happen, and it was difficult to sort the place out. Now, Higgsy went in, and the team were actually better. Peter at times they were unlucky with the results, and Higgsy came in and did really well. And he had the sense to walk away because it's incredibly difficult. And Kenny's come in. There isn't any money. You know, a guy's left and tripled his wages somewhere else.
Yeah.
Still, he's bought well. Like, I mean, Patterson's a good buy.
Yes, look,
absolutely.
Patterson's a good player.
Well, to be honest,
and there's baggage with Patterson.
To be honest, he's taken.
But he scores your goals, Declan.
That's
Well, the thing about it is, if you talk to people, right? If you talk to people, dressing rooms are vital.
Yeah.
If he doesn't change, if Rory Patterson doesn't
It can
change,
be a problem. You're right.
it can be a serious problem in the dressing, and it was a serious problem in the dressing room before with all the managers.
But Felix, when he left, they missed his goals.
He missed his goals, but the thing about it is, Sean, is it? I think in his last year he scored 17 goals. 8 of them were penalties, and there was 2 or 3 hat-tricks.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you take the individual goals, when you look at it from that way, there was only 4 or 5 games where he scored a goal.
Yeah.
But I think the
It's
other
an open
thing
play.
is the opposition will worry about.
It's a threat.
He's a threat.
It's an absolute
Exactly.
threat.
He's a threat.
I like Gareth McGlynn coming back as well. I thought before he left he was very,
I
very
think
good.
my worry is
if he can
can he recreate what he did, Declan? You know, when he's been away and his age.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, yes, I think Kenny's the right man because he has a wide range of experiences within the game. He's a very well respected coach. He's a good coach. I've seen him work.
Kenny's a great fella, real football fella,
that'll help.
real football fella. Lives and breathes the game, and he likes his players to play the right way as well.
Will do, and they'll be
But
organised.
I think he's had his eyes opened already, and he was going to find it difficult.
Okay,
He is going to find it difficult.
Right, well, we'll have a look at who, if anyone, can challenge Dundalk this season in the Premier Division in the next part of our programme. You can join us. And you're welcome back to the third part of our discussion, looking ahead to the new season. And Sean, Conor McCormick of Derry City, I was interested to read a piece with him after one of the pre-season games. He was looking ahead to the new season. He believes that Derry should hold ambitions to perhaps challenge for a European place this season. So he's certainly been optimistic, but you know, has he been over optimistic with that view?
I think he is. I think he's putting a lot of pressure on the manager. I think I'd be bringing him in and having a word with him and saying, let me worry about our predictions, you worry about your job. I think he is, because I think Derry are coming off the back of, but 2 poor seasons, and Felix has said it, the money's not there. They're looking to redevelop the Brandy. Well, I think their goals are different, and Kenny's remit, I would think, would be different. You know, but I think Felix made a great point there about squads bringing in 6-7 players, and we're going to talk now about who's going to win the league. Dundalk have added, 2 players. They're in the situation now where Stephen's built a fantastic squad, and he just has to add every year 1 or 2 players. And you said about Liverpool, you know, if Liverpool lose Suarez, Sturridge and Gerrard and Carr, there's 4. They're hard to replace. So if you can get a situation where you're having to bring in, and Stephen probably decided who was leaving. Towell went to England, so that's a financial windfall. Yeah. He kept who he wanted to keep, and then he added. That's why they're going to be so strong as with difficult.
The only thing that you worry about with Dundalk is when is it going to go bang?
Can they keep the motivation?
Because there are all kinds of rumours coming out of Dundalk. Financially, because that's the nature of the beast in the League of Ireland football.
Well, I think if you go back history, every team has 2 or 3 seasons.
Absolutely.
It's boom and bust.
But then I suppose going back to Dundalk, I mean, and we chatted with Liverpool earlier on, Felix would be that Suarez left Liverpool and look what happened. Richard Towell, 30 goals last season.
Yep.
That's a lot. Like, doesn't regardless of who you bring in, brought in Patrick, come in from Derry, and will he bring 30 goals? I don't see it. No, you know what I mean. So, you know, that quality, when you do 30 goals out of a season.
Stephen Kenny loves Patrick McElhinney. Has always loved him because Patrick McElhinney is you watch him in training, he does all kinds of things, this, that, the other. The problem is I've always been very critical of him because his end product isn't what it should be, and he's not the kind of guy for me that will win you the league. You know,
he's not going to carry a game. You're right, Felix. He's not going to take.
He goes missing too often.
He
goes missing too often. He can be brilliant for 15 minutes and go absolutely missing, and he can go missing in games where he's not effective at all. Where Towell delivers
It's-
every week. You know, most guys who win the league, guys who are really good players, I mean, Declan's heard me say this so many times, really good players play 8, 9, 10
every week.
every week.
Yeah, yeah,
Average players, it's 4 and 5.
yeah.
Guys like McElhinney will be 9 one week and 3 the next. And that's his problem.
And that's
where
why he's still
that's
playing
the
in this
that,
league.
but that's why he's playing here. But that's
Yeah.
the challenge that Stephen
Yeah.
Kenny's
Yeah.
given himself.
But he's
Yeah.
got O'Donnell. You know, O'Donnell when
Top player.
Stephen O'Donnell, I know him inside. He's played for me in 2 clubs. Passing, vision,
Yeah.
controls the tempo of game. One thing I was always critical of, I thought he always could have been fitter. He's addressed that.
Yeah. But he's got injuries, a lot
Well,
of
he's
injuries.
picked up injuries, but you know what, Declan? When he comes back into the team, they play far, far better.
I agree.
Because he makes everything tick.
I think he's a smashing player.
Mix
but
everything.
in the last season or a season and a half, he's been injured for majority of the season.
And that's the point that sort of, I think, Felix,
Mhm.
you're alluding to. Can Dundalk keep that going? And can he keep his bigger players motivated? You know,
Yeah.
because
Well,
if
it
you win
is-
2 leagues, it's hard to keep yourself.
It's about the hunger. How hungry are they?
They've
Yeah.
been very
You
good
know.
the last couple of years. It'll be interesting to see how this year's go,
Yeah.
especially the fact that Richie Tyler's gone.
Yes.
That's an interesting one.
Harps played Dundalk early in their campaign. One of their other games in the early part is Sligo Rovers. Declan, your own former club, a new manager on board there as well, Dave Robertson.
Yeah.
He has signed, was it
12.
something like that? Yeah,
But
12
that happens
players.
every year, Sligo.
Yeah.
It's
Seriously, that happens every year,
a
Sligo.
difficult one. We were just chatting about it before we went on air. It's a difficult one. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know the league. It's a new adventure for a lot of them. So a lot of them come full time and they're going back to full time with Sligo Rovers, which actually is an added incentive for them.
I like what he's done. And as you said, we were talking about this beforehand. I think when you're bringing in players who've been full time in England, you're bringing in a quality to your training. You're bringing in a professionalism and a mentality, which helps ease it all in. For me, the big problem is you bring in 12 new players. How quickly do they gel? Does he know his best team?
Yeah.
By the time he finds out his best team, will it be too late? And look, I think you'll agree, Felix. You're not going to win the league in the first 7 or 8 games, but you can lose it and be off the pace.
Well, the other thing is that we're going to, from the full time point of view, is from a manager's point of view, if things go belly up, you're depressed 4 days and 5 days a week of training instead of 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, one of the departures from the showgrounds, Felix, and it's Harps that have perhaps gained from this one. Gavin Dykes, he has come in as Ollie Horgan's number 2 as a replacement for James Gallagher. How important is that acquisition for Ollie?
I have absolutely no idea, Janet. I have absolutely no idea. I mean, Gavin's been a great survivor. He always seems to he always seems to be there about. I mean, I don't know. The reason I'm saying is because I don't know how the two of them's going to marry together, because I don't really know Ollie.
Yeah.
Gavin's got an awful lot to say in the dressing room. Now, is it going to be good cop, bad cop? Is it going to be 2 bad cops? Is it going to be 2 good cops? I don't know.
I just think with Gavin Cunner, because Ollie's been out of the Premier League, and Van Hart's been out of there, Gavin's been there with Sligo the last couple of years, and knowing players and identifying key areas in other teams, he know all that information, and
Yeah.
obviously help Ollie along the way in regards, set plays and different stuff, and players who to pick up. That information is invaluable. Obviously, he's vast experience. He's a good character as well in the dressing rooms, and he
Well, I
probably
think,
you need that at times when you
I
laugh
think
and a joke,
Felix's
but obviously there's
point is-
seriousness about it
Felix's
as well.
point is important. The dynamics between the two. How well do they know each other? And I think I mean, you'll know when you get into senior management, because I'm sure you're going. Your assistant, your right hand man is very, very important. If those dynamics are wrong,
And the one thing the assistant has got to know, when to shut up. He's got to know that,
Yeah.
when to shut up.
and when to back the manager up.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of politics involved in that as well. Doesn't matter how close you get to one another,
Yeah.
and all those things again can become a particularly serious issue if results don't go away.
Yeah.
So when you bring in somebody else new in that you've never really worked with before, although you might have talked to on the phone, blah blah blah. Once you're in the cauldron of the dressing room, that whole psyche, that whole relationship changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays
Yeah.
out.
I think he brings experience, and that's the key. I suppose Ollie probably loved to bring other people in, but maybe they didn't have the same experience as Gavin, and he brings that in the buttons.
Yeah.
And I think he's good in the dressing rooms, and he'll need have somebody in there with a different voice, and it can be, at times you need characters and have a wee bit of fun, and Gavin can bring that as well as the seriousness and professionalism as well.
Okay, well we need to wrap things up, but before we do, boys, we'll go round the table and we'll just a few predictions. I mean, Harps have struggled to survive in the Premier Division. They've been in the First Division for far too long, as far as their supporters are concerned. But Declan, do you see them having enough to stay up this year?
I suppose it's been difficult, or will be difficult, should I say. It's been difficult down through the years for us to stay up there.
Get off that fence.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, I suppose you look last year at Limerick, and Limerick hadn't won the game up until August. So I mean, I wouldn't be thrown in the towel from the offset. I think if you look at the general squad, he probably tried right to get players in, but didn't get the right quality. Probably needs a few more, and I think by July, that's been a critical time, because as long as you can stay with your Longfords and your Galways and the team's Bray around that, you've got a real chance, you know. So I'd be hopeful that we'll make the playoffs at the very least.
Felix, you mentioned Leicester City yourself earlier on in the interview. Are there any clubs in the Premier Division good enough to do a Leicester City and challenge Dundalk this year?
No, not in this league. No. Going back to the issue about Harps and staying, I think I read somewhere Ollie was saying it would be a great achievement if they stayed in the Premier Division. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think it would be a much bigger achievement. The playoffs was like a cup competition, you know, cup mentality with semi-final and then like a final, and different mentality that's involved. When you're playing week in, week out in the Premier Division, it's a different kettle of fish. I think a lot of what happens in the first 4 games will be vital.
Yeah.
I think there are 3 or 4 teams in there that they'll see themselves as, you know, we could be in a dogfight. I think Harps probably will be one of them. I think there's nobody here would disagree with that. But again, you got to give a wee bit of luck. He's heard me say this many times. It's the most underrated thing in life.
Yes.
You've got to get lucky.
Yeah. I think if Harps are ahead of Wexford, you know, that could be just.
Well, I think that's got to be their target, because I know we mentioned Longford and Bray and Galway, but Bray seem to have that sort of durability about them. And I think they'll always pick up enough points to be just above the relegation.
And they sign very well.
Well, they always Bray are always going to get, you know,
Dublin players as well.
That's a better pool to pick from.
That's what the population is.
If you're fishing in the Big Sea and the big players are migrating to the big clubs and you're left for the scraps, well, it's better picking up the scraps in and around Dublin than trying to get them to come up to Donegal or even to Sligo, which is why Sligo tend to bring them in from outside. But going back to what you said, Shamrock Rovers again, I think recruited well, but for me last year, flattered to deceive, never really hit a solid run of form. For me, it's all about Dundalk. Can they maintain their motivation? Can they cope with the loss of Towell? Ronan Finn came in last year. He's a good player.
I like him.
Can he sort of fulfil that role? Again, we've talked about going to England, never quite fulfilled it, but he's a smashing player.
The interesting one will be Cork.
Yeah.
Cork ran their team last year. You could see that a lot of older players and their legs went in the last 3 months of the year. I saw bits and pieces what John Caulfield said about, you know, we're going to create more chances, we're going to be more pace about us, and it'll be interesting to see if they can stay the pace this year.
Yeah, and Cork are one of Derry's first opponents as well, Felix, and I know you did suggest that the pressure is very much on Derry this year, but they do have a fairly attractive start to their campaign. Leaving Cork aside, they've got Harps, Bray, Galway and Wexford in their opening 5 games. That's nice.
It's not the worst. Well, it depends.
I think you take it over Harps start.
Well, you take it over Harps start, but I mean, if they leave Ballabafay and they've just lost,
that's providing you won the games.
You know, that's then it becomes a different ball game. Every week it changes, Jim. Every week changes. You know, the last time when Derry won the league in '97, when I was the manager, our first victory, our first match was at Ballabafay, and we scored the winner, I think, in the 92nd minute, Sean Harrigan with a back post header. The dressing room afterwards was incredible, and it set us on its way. That kind of momentum and that mentality changing. Now I can imagine what it was like in your dressing room, Declan, where you're devastated, you've lost in the 93rd minute,
you've played well,
and all of those things come into play. And that's why I say it is. And I do think, given the nature of the beast, it's a tough start for Hearts, but it's going to be tough for Derry every week.
Yeah.
It is going to be tough for Derry every week.
Well, I think in the first 4 or 5 round of games, that's where you get some sharp results. Teams haven't bedded down. I think then the team that's going to win the league is the team that goes in the run in that middle part of the season. And you get to the last 4 or 5 games, and again it's all up in the air because it's pressure whether they avoid relegation or going for the league.
Yeah. Gents, it's been a pleasure. It's been a fascinating discussion, and one thing we're all agreed on, we're looking forward to the start of the new campaign. My thanks to Declan Boyle, to Felix Healy and to Sean Connor today for looking ahead to what promises to be another intriguing season in the SSE Airtricity Premier Division. Thanks for listening.